Hello. Um, Hello from a bit grey Helsinki today, and welcome to discuss the Makasiiniranta Quality and Concept Competition. There's an international two-stage quality and concept competition that will be held for the Makasiiniranta area of Helsinki's South Harbour during this year and 2022. And during the next 2 hours, we will be diving into the possibilities of the area and, of course, the practicalities of the competition. My name is Ville Blofeld and I will be moderating this event. And on the right-hand side of your screen, there is a little button that says Q&A. And through that button, you can submit questions or comments to all the speakers today. If possible, when you're submitting a question, please also write who you're directing the question to, if it is specific to one speaker. I believe we start with a short video and then we get the opening remarks from the Deputy Mayor of Helsinki. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry, that was my mistake. So we will dive straight into the presentations. The opening remarks come from the Deputy Mayor for Urban Environment in Helsinki, Anni Sinnemäki.
Hello, everyone. It's really great to see you here. We are certainly in the middle of the history of the city and in the middle of the transformation of the city at the same time. So it's my pleasure to welcome you all to listen to this seminar and hopefully to join this most interesting competition in the very heart of design and wonders of the city. As Ville said, my name is Anni Sinnemäki. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Urban Environment and also have been from the beginning in the jury for this competition. We are here really talking about the essence of cities. The essence of cities is that we are never complete. Something is happening all the time. Things are changing, views are changing, and people are changing. In Helsinki, late years that we have been living, the transformation of the city has been especially burningly felt. The city has grown. There are many more of us now than there were 10 years ago, and we have been eager to develop the city, both in the city center and also in the suburbs. This location that we are talking today, Makasiininranta, it takes us straight to the historic city center. We are near the market square. We are near the culturally valued and protected historical Russian time empire city center. And all the time we are there by the sea. One of the really important goals for this competition is that we have the opportunity now to bring people closer to the sea. We have always been a city by the sea. We have a great archipelago. But here, historically, as in many other places, the seashore occupied by many functions that are changing now. And in Helsinki here, we are talking about changing the locations and the structure of the harbor. And this gives us an opportunity to organize this competition to create new public spaces, new places for the citizens of Helsinki, new location for the architecture and design. Might be wondering how really difficult this place might be to design well to find the right solutions. I think that one important thing is to combine sensitivity and combine it with being brave. Historical values of the built city here are clearly seen, and they are also such values that people of Helsinki are really invested in them. I think that one could say that people really love the cityscape when coming from the sea around the market square. But at the same time, when we are thinking of the historical values and the importance of city to remain or to have its landmarks and its historical identity, it's also really important that we would manage to create a completely new layer for the identity of the city. And this is certainly the reason why we have wanted to organize this competition, to find the best possible solutions, to find best possible architecture, to find fresh, best ideas, how we would make Makasiininranta a place where everyone wants to be, where everyone wants to stay, where meetings of the people can take place, where the very essence of the city life would happen easily and naturally. We have wanted to organize the competition as a competition where we seek both the financial feasibility and important and interesting high quality design. Why we have wanted to do that? We have wanted to do that because we seek for the best architecture and best design for the city, but at the same time we have wanted to have ideas that are implementable, something that we can also participate as a city to make sure that these changes really happen. And one really important factor is, of course, that we are together with the new museum and together with the state of Finland, we want to make sure that the new museum also, that it really will be realized, that it will take place. I would also, I want to emphasize that we are here in the city center, and I think it's really important to have an area, to have a location that integrates itself to the existing city. One important thing is that it would integrate itself to the pedestrian traffic naturally. When Harbor takes its move, we will really have like 1,000 times better possibilities for the pedestrian traffic to move around the market square, to move around the city shore, and that is the seashore. And that is something that I'm at least looking forward to see how the integration to the city center and its pedestrian nature will be resolved in the competition. And to conclude, I think that one thing that cannot be too much underlined is the nature of the sea, the fact that we are here bringing people closer to the sea, to really give people possibilities and opportunities to feel the closeness of the sea. This view, the iconic view that if you, for example, if you take the ferry from UNESCO World Heritage Site, Suomenlinna, and you take the ferry to the market square, this historic site, this historic cityscape, it has remained almost the same, say more than 150 years at least. And then you have many more layers like Alvar Aalto's building for company Enso Goodsite. You see 1960s buildings, and you see the market hall, beautiful covered market, and you see the market square as well. And I think that what is important, what we are looking for, is that we would have a new layer of identity to this loved cityscape, loved view when coming from the sea to Helsinki. Something that we could be all proud of, something that would make future generations of Helsinki people as proud as these historic buildings at the moment make us proud. So I wish you all a good seminar, and I really encourage you to take part in this competition. I'm sure that this is one of the most exciting opportunities to do ambitious design, placemaking, architecture in the Nordic north of Europe in coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sinnemäki, right on time. There is one specific question for you from the audience. As elections will be taking place in Helsinki in June, will people like Mrs. Sinnemäki still belong to the jury or have a say in the competition? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, certainly we're living election times, and I understand it so that since we formed the jury so that it started with Mayor Vapaavuori as chairperson and myself as one of the members of the jury, and these are not personal positions, so whoever will be the mayor will be then the chairperson of the jury, and then also whoever will be the deputy mayor for the urban environment will be also in the jury. But I could add that organizing this competition, we have made decisions in the Urban Environment Committee and in the City Board, and those decisions have been really broadly accepted. So if someone worries that the election changes the whole atmosphere, I would say that although democracy, of course, has its surprises, but here I would say that there's a really broad combination of different parties who have really been eager to take this competition and development of this place further.
Thank you. We take your word on that. And then we move forward. We will get an update on a really unique project in the area. Next presentation will come from Project Director Kaarina Gold of the Architecture and Design Museum. Welcome.
Thank you, Ville. Thank you for the urban DNA of Helsinki in such an inspiring and thought-provoking way. I wonder if my presentation is up. I can't see it myself. Thank you. Helsinki as a city and Finland as a country are known for design and architecture. Our legacy in functional modernism punches way above our weight. And for example, the Finnish baby box, first introduced in late 30s already, has been a design and a service design concept parents around the world. Today, we are pioneering in sustainable material innovations, like the cellulose-based fabric Spinnova in the image, well-being devices, education tools, and healthcare solutions that are embraced around the world. When we talk about our city, we always talk about design and architecture. Yet our two national museums designated for design and the built environment, the Museum of Finnish Architecture and the Design Museum, are far from the institutions the professional communities and visitors, both locally and globally, expect and deserve. Both are operating in historic buildings that were never meant for museum purposes, their ambitions in providing experiences and services for their users. This is now about to change. In the past few years, a series of studies on the feasibility of founding a new museum for design and architecture in Helsinki have been conducted. and relations between the city of Helsinki, the state of Finland, and the two existing museums. A new project phase has been launched this spring with a clear objective to produce a visionary concept, an operating and funding model, a design brief, and all the necessary data needed to make a final decision about building the new museum. The plan is to reach that decision by the end of 2023. In this project, we have a simple goal: to build a home for the world's leading museum for architecture and design in Helsinki. Nowhere in the world is design and architecture so embedded in the culture and identity. So we think it's only natural that the first major new institution for design and architecture of the post-pandemic era will be built here. The ambition level is high, and reaching that bar is also the condition for the financial commitments from the funders. Both the City of Helsinki and the State of Finland have conditionally committed to backing the new museum with significant donations. 3 private foundations have joined the forces, the total capital raised reaching nearly a target of 150 million euros. And as said, all parties have set conditions for the funding, the common one being that the museum must be in a class of its own globally. Not another Bilbao, not another Dundee, but a Helsinki kind of special place, setting a new standard for presenting design and architecture, creating a new way of seeing, sharing, and learning. The 2 existing museums are committed to something that redefines the concept of a museum, yet respecting the responsibilities of a national museum in its field. The backbone of a museum is the wisdom and the expertise stemming from its nature as a memory institution, a keeper of history, and an interpreter in how it informs the present and our future. The new museum will cherish these qualities, building on the practices developed with peers in the global museum network. However, more than just a museum, we seek to build a destination, a place to be, a place to return to, a place that calls in visitors not only to see the groundbreaking exhibition or participate in a professional program, but also to taste the new museum restaurant, to see the view of the harbor from the roof terrace, to spend a day trying out design tools with grandparents, or to find that unique gift for a friend overseas. As by pandemic, will be on developing new technologies and platforms for virtual experiences, both inside and outside the museum building. The building itself, as very clearly described in the competition program, is not part of the Makasiini Ranta quality and concept competition, even though the planning goes hand in hand with the redevelopment of the South Harbour. A separate architecture competition will be opened later, hopefully in 2022. As you will hear later during this webinar, Helsinki is committed to being carbon neutral in 2035. The guiding principles in planning, programming, and building the new museum are naturally based on ecological and social sustainability. Our time calls for taking responsibility, and we aim to overperform on that front as well. The new Museum for Architecture and Design is set to be located in the Makasiini Ranta area. The location, as Anni so beautifully described, is the very definition of that sweet spot between urban life and nature that characterizes Helsinki. The blue and green around the museum, combined with the historic center and the exciting new development, create a fabric that has potential of becoming the new standard for urban placemaking. With this note on placemaking, I lead these wise words by Alvar Aalto. Thank you. Alvar Aalto's words obviously didn't want to come up on the screen, but what he said is that, let's see, no, we can't get it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is such an inspiring project, and yeah, it's everyone who is visioning the area should take this as a great opportunity as well as a part of it. I think we are ready to move on then with the presentations. And next we will hear about the history of the planning area and its valuable buildings. Johanna Björkman is the head of cultural environment at the Helsinki City Museum. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk briefly about the history of the planning area and its surroundings in the South Harbour area. The context of my presentation is the one of cultural and heritage, and more specifically the cultural environment. Eteläsatama, South Harbour, is part of the national landscape of maritime Helsinki. The location is important for the city, and it is symbolically very valuable place and the facade of the historical center of Helsinki. Some historical facts first. As you may know, Helsinki was founded in 1950, and the site where the town was situated first proved not to be very ideal. In fact, in 1640, the town was moved to its present location to Viraniemi. And later in 1809, Finland became part of Russia until its independence in 1917. But when Helsinki became the capital city of Finland in 1812, the small town had just, in fact, burned down 4 years ago. And there was this special committee appointed to direct the rebuilding of the town, and a new city plan was drawn. Senator Johan Albert Ehrenström was selected as a chair for the committee, and Ehrenström's plan in this picture was the basis for the core of Helsinki. As you can see in this plan from 1815, the town was very small in its size by then, and its core was situated around the church and the Kruunurhaka area, which today are the oldest parts of the city. The two major axes seen in this map, which are still relevant in the planning area today, are first, there's the Esplanade Park going from west to east and a square at the end of it. And another major axis is the south shore in the north-south direction. In this photograph or lithograph, it is from a series called Views of Helsinki. It's from 1838, and it shows the fast-growing city of stone buildings near the seafront. Ehrenström, who was in charge of the rebuilding project, had hired the German architect Carl Ludwig Engel, and they together gave Helsinki its monumental empire-style center. In this next photograph, last one, which is the very first ones from 1860s, you can see the South Harbour, which is presented in a way that has become sort of iconic ever since. There's the cathedral and the Empire-style center in the background, photographed from the highest point of Tähtitorninvuori Park or from Kaivopuisto Park. And you can also see the market square at the south shore, which was built ready by the middle of the 19th century. The market square has been operating in the same location for over 200 years now. And also in the pictures, you can see there are always a lot of ships and different boats in the harbor, since the travel and the trade have been an integral part of the area. A major change in the South Harbour area was the construction of a harbour railway, which was built in the 1890s. And that was needed for a connection between the railway station and the South Harbour. The track, which arrived from the south, was lined to run along the south shore and the market hall, and the placement of the track required some partial filling and larger filling area at the market square. And you can see at the background there's the Tähtitorninvuori just before it was built as a park. In this picture from 1890s, you can see in the southern part there was the shipyard called Ullalinnan Laivaveistämö, which had been operating quite a long time, actually since the 18th century. And the buildings of the South Harbour were originally wooden warehouses. It is also notable that this place, as late as the 17th and 18th centuries, the market square area was still below the shoreline. And the fact that the city itself was moved to Viraniemi was because of the better port it had. But the shore was firstly very shallow and only suitable for boats for coastal and archipelago residents. So the port status as the port was quite secondary. Also in this picture you can see the whole area and the also the Katajanokka area, which was developing at the Orthodox Church on the right side. One key element in the planning area is the Tähtitorninvuori Park. The park itself was established in the 1890s to the highest place in the inner town, and it was named after observatory that was built already in the 1834 by architect Carl Ludwig Engel. These views from the park have been iconic, one could say. Also the views towards the park and the green landscape is an important background to Eteläranta, the South Shore. Then I have some photos and I will tell you briefly about the existing buildings in the planning area. There's the old market hall, which was built in 1889, and it is designed by architect Gustav Nyström. And that market hall is the oldest of the 3 market halls in Helsinki, and the other 2 are situated, as you may know, in Hietalahti and Hakaniemi. The construction of the building was advanced, as it has a steel skeleton inside, which was ordered originally from Germany, and the architect, he himself designed the facades and the wooden interiors. The building is still it's well preserved and it's still in its original use. I have a next picture from the interior, which is really nice, and also there's a small wooden kiosk right at the northern entrance from the market hall, which was built around 1900. Then we also have 2 newer buildings at the South Harbour, which is also known as the Olympic Scenery from Helsinki Olympics in 1952. When Helsinki got the Olympic Games first in 1940, and the building was started in 1938, but it had to be delayed because of the war. The Olympic terminal here on the right side was built in the former area of shipyard, which the city of Helsinki had purchased. This building was completed for the use of passenger and freight traffic, and it was designed by architects Arne Hytönen and Risto-Veikko Luukkonen, who won the architectural competition by then. The passage travel from Helsinki to Stockholm was started in the Olympic year 52, first only summer and autumn season. There is a port house next to the Olympic terminal, which was built 2 years later by the same architects, and it was a customs warehouse originally. Both of these buildings, they have been protected in a detailed plan, and their interior and the passenger hall in the Olympic terminal is protected as well as the canopy outside the building. Then I have my last slide here, which I will here present the values of the area. The competition area and its nearest surroundings are very dense of cultural historical values. South Harbour is a central part of the maritime national landscape of Helsinki, and I think the connection to the sea is very vital, as had been said here before. Also, Suomenlinna nearby is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and its buffer zone includes South Harbour as well. There are also several nationally significant built cultural environments in the area or closely connected to it. And they are the before mentioned Tähtitorninmäki Observatory and the Park, Kaivopuisto Park, Helsinki Market Square with its buildings, also the Senate Square with its surroundings, and also opposite to the planning area is Katajanokka, at the old part of it. And in addition to this, Olympiaterminal and Port House, as mentioned here, are part of nationally significant built cultural environment among Helsinki Olympic buildings. There are also even regional and cultural historical values attached to the planning area as well. In conclusion, I would like to remind you that the historic background and the cultural environment of today are very crucial elements in the planning area. And I think it is essential to be aware of these place-specific values and the identity of the site. Also, the landscape, open views, and the sea are an integral part of the site that should not be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johanna. And now we are ready to kind of dive into the planning principles and the specifics of the competition and maybe the more technical presentations of the afternoon. And here I was promised that I now get to show you the video that I tried to show you already earlier. So now a short video and then we'll continue with the expert presentations.
Every citizen of Helsinki lives less than 10 kilometers from the sea. The sea embraces the Helsinki city centre on 3 sides, and a special feature of the city is a mosaic of islands. During the last 10 years, Helsinki city centre has been going through a massive change. Old harbour and industrial areas have been redeveloped and built. The sea and the archipelago are now more important for the well-being of Helsinki residents than ever before.
The history of cities is always the history of transformation. As communities of people, cities are being built and molded throughout times in response to the great cultural, social, technological, and economic transformations people face. No one owns the way a city should look like. A city is never finished. Every generation should have their own opportunity to envision the Helsinki of their dreams.
The city of Helsinki is organising a competition to find a partner for the development and implementation of Makasiiniranta at South Harbour. The competition is a 2-phase quality and concept competition. Makasiiniranta at South Harbour is the last old harbour area to be developed in Helsinki. At the same time, it is the most important and valuable one. The competition area is part of the Helsinki national landscape and largely a nationally significant valuable cultural environment. The place is central and symbolically very valuable and is part of the maritime facade of Helsinki's historic centre. A key goal of the competition is to produce an overall land use plan of exceptionally high quality and functionality that implements the city's objectives in terms of land use, urban landscape, and other aspects and serves as a basis for the future development, detailed planning and implementation of the area. The competition also includes the area planned for the Architecture and Design Museum, the aim of which is to ensure that the museum becomes a natural part of the high-quality area.
We are committed to creating an extremely ambitious but simultaneously realistic approach to the development of Makasiiniranta. The whole Helsinki city organization supports the best possible realization of the area. The highest possible level of ambition must be visible from the planning to the building phase.
There you go. A little ambition there, ambition level there. I do recognize my own hometown from those pictures. And so now we dive into different angles of the area and of the competition. And first we take a look at the cultural environment and landscape. Anu Lamminpää is a landscape architect of urban space and landscape planning at the Urban Environment Division at the City of Helsinki. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Anu Lamminpää. I am a landscape architect working for the City of Helsinki. I am going to talk about the Makasiiniranta area in the South Harbour Bay from the landscape point of view. However, when we talk about this area, we do not only talk about the landscape, but also about the very unique cultural environment, as we hear in the previous presentations as well. So that we can properly understand the position of the Makasiiniranta in the Helsinki's iconic landscape, we need to zoom out a little bit. This is a map of the topography. I have marked some important points to which we will return later in this presentation. In green, you can see the surrounding historical parks. Among them, Esplanadi Park's green facade invites you into the city if you arrive from the harbor. It naturally connects you because it is at the sea level. Other landmarks that are marked in red are meant to be seen in the city. It is not a coincidence that the cathedrals really rise up in the cityscape. They have been built in the highest places in topography. Here you can see Makasiiniranta is in the middle of Helsinki's most valuable and carefully considered landscape. Now let's take a closer look at these places. The idea of the two Esplanade streets and the park between them was already in the town plan from the beginning of the 19th century. It formed an important axis, but also a free zone between city center stone buildings and wooden housing area in the south, where the people from the lower social class lived. For example, in case of a fire, it would have protected the city center. At first, it was a popular walking place for the upper class. Now it is a very popular place to be for all, especially in the summer. And as said, an important pedestrian link between the South Harbour and other parts of the city center. Other historical park connected to Makasiiniranta area is the Tähtitornivuori Park. It is located on the highest point of the Helsinki Peninsula, 32 meters above the sea level. All its known historic purposes has been connected to the dominating position in the landscape structure, and also because to the views to the sea and its surroundings. Name of the hill comes from the observatory. It was very modern in its time. It has an important position in the cityscape as an end of the axis of Unionikatu Street. Till the end of 19th century, it was also a visible landmark. Now it is surrounded by trees and it is not so visible in the cityscape anymore. Tähtitornivuori Park is Helsinki's first municipal public park that was designed and constructed by the city to the Tähtitornivuori Hill in the beginning of the 20th century. Sceneries and visibility were an important design idea of the park's plan. It soon became an official viewpoint to the market square, Makasiiniranta and Kateenokka. One of the park's greatest values is the view opening to the sea. There are several viewpoints in the park. For example, there are different viewpoints to the nearest churches that are marked with the cross in the map. The views have been designed so that you can see for example, Helsinki Cathedral, so that the vegetation of the park form a frame to the view, and there is a classic Helsinki silhouette in the background. Postcards sent all over the world with these views were used earlier as an advertisement of the city as well. The park has never been in direct connection to the level of the seashore, so its position in the landscape structure and in the cityscape has its historical value. Kaivopuisto Park is located south from the Tähtitornivuori hill. In the beginning, it was a private and for the higher society. At the end of the 19th century, it was transformed into a public city park. Tähtitornivuori Park was constructed at the same time. Together, it influenced at Ullalinna and Kaivopuisto developed into an exclusive city district. Here is the map of the topography again. And you can see how the main routes for the pedestrians are located. As you can see, we have two parallel routes here. The coastline promenade is important and very much used, but in Makasiiniranta, it still has a lot of potential, and in Makasiiniranta, it has a lot of potential to be developed. One very popular option is also in some point to climb up to the Kaivopuisto Park hill and to see the view to the Southern Sea. Then continue to the Tähtitornivuori hill and see Makasiiniranta and the whole South Harbour Bay. And then go down and continue to Market Square and from there through Esplanadi Park to the city center or vice versa. Like these old parks and the coastline promenade are linked together in the Southern Helsinki public space network. I will show you 4 pictures along the way, 2 first from the Makasiiniranta and then 2 from the southern shore. It is not very pleasant environment at the moment, and it is very narrow and has its distance from the sea. South from Olympia Terminal, it doesn't look like the beautiful promenade would continue. But in the south, it is very beautiful and much used. Here is another view from the shore promenade. You can see Kaivopuisto in the background and Makasiiniranta is behind it. The historical parks are not in the competition area, even if they are tightly connected to it. Inside the competition area, we have Armia Ratia Park, western side of the Olympia Terminal, marked as a cross in the map. There is a port railway shaft that is no longer in use. Now it is an important part of the green structure connecting visually Kaivopuisto Park to Makasiiniranta. It is typical for the old Helsinki city structure that at the end of the street view is the sea. This is also the case in the districts surrounding Makasiiniranta. In Makasiiniranta, we want to create the missing part of seaside route around the shores of Helsinki. There is no need to make significant changes to the shoreline, but the seashore shall be in public use except in the port area. The new public outdoor space should be high quality with its own identity, but in such a way that it is a natural part of the surrounding city. Here is still another important view from the front of the Satamatalo. It helps passengers orient themselves in the city and lead people towards the city center. Then we still have the aspect of the sea. The islands in front of the coast of Helsinki are a very important part of the green structure for recreational use. There are many ferry boats from the Market Square, like to Korkeasaari Zoo and Suomenlinna Islands, and in the future there will be even better connections to the near islands and to the coastline in general. Suomenlinna is UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most popular sites in Finland. Makasiiniranta is located inside the buffer zone of Suomenlinna. It is a marine fortress and navy base from the Swedish rule. It is also a city district of Helsinki with over 800 permanent residents. So the view from the sea to Makasiiniranta and in South Harbour Bay in general are important part of experiencing the city. The nearest islands of Makasiiniranta are Luoto and Valkosaari. They are very visible and present in the harbour cityscape. Both have summer restaurants from the year 1900. The South Harbour is a gate to the city from the sea. Many times it offers the visitors the first impression of Helsinki, right in the middle of our national landscape, Marine Helsinki. When entering the city, first you see everything very green because the islands in front of Kaivopuisto city district. Then you see the facade of the historical center with the well-thought position of the two cathedrals which rise high from their surroundings. In this important view, green Tähtitorninvuori hill, located behind the Makasiiniranta and Kaivopuisto loosely built city district, make a frame to the facade of the historical city center. These areas do not compete but lead the attention to it. It will be a demanding task to bring a new layer in this delicate place. My name is Anu Lämminpää. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anu. And just a reminder, if you have the program for this afternoon on your screen there on the right-hand side, if you scroll up of the program, you will find the tab that says Q&A, and through that you can send questions and comments to all the speakers. If possible, name the person you want to point the question to, and then we will go through them in the end of this event. But now we move ahead to the construction and functions of the area. Salla Hoppu is a leading architect in detailed planning at the Urban Environment Division of City of Helsinki. Welcome.
Thank you, Ville, and good afternoon, everybody. Must say first that I'm already now very excited about this competition because I'll be working on the detailed plans for this area. So, okay, there is my presentation. So, first to show you the location of this competition area in Helsinki. It's very central. And South Harbour is the maritime heart of Helsinki, and its connection to the city centre is one of the key elements in Helsinki's city strategy. The goal of the competition is to extend downtown area to Makasiiniranta and have an access to the sea. The South Harbour area is one of the city's most important development projects, and Makasiiniranta is being developed as part of the entity. The area, which is now currently mainly used for port operations and parking, will be transformed to a comfortable public urban space and more human-centric environment. Yes, the importance of this area is enormous to the residents of Helsinki. Market Square is, of course, a place for trade, but it's also a place for big celebrations, like 1st of May festivities, New Year's Eve, or when Finland wins the World Championship on ice hockey or Eurovision Song Contest. And next, I will speak about the objectives we have for the competition area. The pedestrian-friendly center will expand to the Makasiiniranta area. We are expecting to have attractive, high-quality outdoor spaces. The seaside promenade and new outdoor spaces are desired to be spatially diverse and attractive. Makasiiniranta will be developed as an open, public and active area with activities for different age groups and user groups. Public outdoor areas should be in active use at different times of the day and on every season, even during the winter. And also the non-commercial spaces are needed in the area. The new, okay, my clicker is not, okay, thank you. So the new Architecture and Design Museum will be the main attraction on the area. Other functions should support museum activities. We are looking for functional diversity and density. Premises on the pedestrian level should include services, shops, and similar premises supporting the active and urban nature of the area. New functions on the area can be services, business, culture, or hotel. Housing is not allowed. Okay. Sorry, okay. And sorry, I have some problems with the clicker, but now it seems to be working fine. Okay. The new architecture for Makasiiniranta. Makasiiniranta will build a new layer to the marine facade of the South Harbour. We are looking for ambitious and extremely high-quality architecture on this valuable location. Architecture must be contemporary, but respect the history and have a deep understanding of the requirements of this unique location. New urban plan and structure should be characterful, interesting, and strong entity that strengthens the identity of the area. And next, I will zoom to the different surroundings on the competition area. The seaside promenade runs through the competition area and connects to the extensive public seaside promenade around the Helsinki Peninsula. And Lübeckin Laituri Pier is spatially and functionally an extension to the market square. The old market hall is a valuable building and it will be dominant on the pier. It is possible to think of new suitable functions for the old market hall. At best, the long food history will be seen in the future use. Small additional constructions, pavilion-like buildings to the old market hall is possible to enable technical modernization of the building and to improve its functionality. There is also a need for waterway transport terminal that can be solved by building a small pavilion or as part of the old market hall's operational concept. And a pedestrian access towards the market square and esplanades should be improved. Museum will be located in Makasiiniranta as the northernmost new building in the area. The location is south of the Eteläinen Makasiinikatu street line, leaving the view towards the sea open. North of the museum will be a big public plaza by the sea, providing access to the sea waterfront. And the new facade of the museum is at the end of the view from the market square, and that will be very dominant in the cityscape. And as Kaarina previously told, the museum is a part of the wider development project, but there will be a separate architecture competition about the building. And the focus area for the new construction is in Makasiiniranta. That location is highly visible in the heart of the city, and the new area can be seen from the shores of southern harbour area and from the sea. This prime location offers opportunities to build a new part of maritime Helsinki. Makasiiniranta offers opportunities to develop the area for different functions and activities on the waterfront. The facilities on pedestrian level along the seaside promenade, streets and squares should feature functions that are open to the public and make the public space livable and lovable. The planning principles for new construction protect the values and special features of the site. The silhouette of the green Tähtitornivuori hill will rise above the roofs. The maximum height for the elevation for new construction is plus 20 meters above sea level for the entire length of the planning area. And the maximum elevation for construction closest to the shore is plus 18. And these can be exceeded only for very, very good reasons. These buildings are visible from every side and they have no rear facades. Also, the roof surface is very visible seen from Tähtitornivuori hill, and that must be designed as the fifth facade of the buildings. New construction takes into account the various and valuable views of Laivasillanкatu street towards the sea and the cathedrals. New construction also allows variety of pedestrian routes from the street to the seaside, connections that are sufficiently loose in terms of cityscape and functionality will be indicated between Laivasillanкatu street and the seaside. Connections through the blocks will complement the connections formed by public outdoor spaces. Port House and Olympia Terminal have significant conservation values, and we are looking for new suitable functions for these buildings. And there is a need for a smooth pedestrian connection from in front of Port House to the seaside trail. The elevation of any extension of the deck in front of Port House must be integrated or landscaped into the surrounding elevations. And in this area, there is a need for high-speed vessel terminal in the vicinity of Makasiini Quay. The connection from the seaside to area to Armi Ratias Park provided by the old railway shaft will be investigated as part of the overall plan. The connection between the park and the deck in front of Olympia Terminal also needs improvement. This area will be developed as a park area that functionally and scenically connects the seaside with public outdoor spaces. New functions can be developed below the park. Okay, and last, thank you for listening. and I'm already now very excited to see the good ideas and your entries we will reserve in December. Thank you.
Thank you, and great to see a little snow there in the end. It's good to remember that here in Helsinki we actually have 4 seasons, at least 4 seasons. Okay, yeah, I'm hearing we are getting questions and comments. That is great. We will get back to those in the end of the event. And now we will jump to the next presentation. The next angle is traffic and public spaces and connections. Inga Valjakka is a team leader in traffic planning of the Urban Environment Division of City of Helsinki. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone, I'm Inga Valjakka from Urban Environment Division, and I'm from Traffic Planning and Street Planning Division also, and I'm working as a team leader there. Now I'm going to talk about traffic, public spaces and connections, and how these factors must be taken into account when you're planning this city structure. Okay, and here you can see planning principles for traffic planning. So the starting point is, and which is a really big thing, is that cruise ship traffic moves away from the area, and this means that there will be no trucks or cars to the ships, and that's why this traffic traffic modes, different traffic modes will change. And this will be the big change on the area. And also you have also heard about this underground collector street, and there is no you don't have to take it into account, and you don't have to prepare for that in these plans. And also there is this seafront route which has been before this presentation talked about a lot, and this should be for pedestrians through the current port area and connection to Kaivopuisto via Armiratia Park. And also this qualitative improvement is also important. And so the most important thing that you know that walkable city is the main thing in this area. So you have to take it into account and improving those quality of connections and increasing the attractiveness of the area so that pedestrians could have more qualitative connections there. And also these planning principles for service traffic when you're when the all goods are moving. There's two options to plan that, and this service connection and service yard at basement level will release additional floor space on the ground level, and this also gives more opportunities to develop that ground level, and this is why this is also significant cost factor at the same time. And service traffic connection can be planned either through the current entrance connection on Tähtitornivuori in the rock tunnel, or from the southern tip of the area, and there will be soon the map about that. And also service traffic route must not prevent public connection in the direction of the Armiratia Park railway shaft or the development of facilities related to it. And as you can see at this next slide, here are all the service traffic connections presented. So left side there is service connection from the Ehrenströmintie street, and it comes underground before it comes to the actually right away almost at Satamatalo corner. And also this right side there is another connection which comes from Laivasillankatu street and via Tähtitornivuori and via south. And no north connections are allowed. Here is also planning principles for public connections. I know there is a lot of text, and all these things has come around here once, and here it comes once more, as we can have seen how these other presentations have shown. Maybe the most important thing is that this development takes into account the cruise ship traffic that will remain at the Olympic Pier, and this is how it's going to change. This is a thing you have to think when you plan this seafront route that follows the seafront fall. And also there is fluent walking connections to the seafront route, and if possible, the level of the extension of the deck in front of Satamatalo should be adapted or landscaped to the levels of the environment. And also walking connection between the seafront route and the railway shaft of Armiratia Park. And this is not actually decided yet, is it walking connection or cycling connection, but connection should be for both, especially for walking should be taken into account. And also these loose connections between Laivasillankatu Street and the seafront in terms of cityscape and function must be taken into account. And when you're doing architectural building modeling, you must remember that you give this spacious impression, not too narrow, that when you walk there, you can feel that this is not, you don't get anxious there. And also these land use blocks complement connections are important and work as alternative routes. And also if we go to the next slide, you can see map, and these are all the aims. So you can see this Olympic Pier, there is this green connection, and this is this seafront connection. And also you can see this red line, which means that there is a pedestrian connection and also cycling, and this connection is main cycling route. So this means that this is important for cyclists and should be developed, taking into account that. And also this blue one, you can see a connection to the rail shaft to the Kaivopuisto. And this Salla already told about this connection and why it should be planned. And there is also this four connection between Laivasillankatu Street and this harbor seafront area between blocks. Okay, and here is the almost last one slide, and here is actually summary of all these things I have told here. So seafront route, it has come many times in these discussions, and how it should be taken into account. Let's say that you cannot plan traffic or public spaces if you don't take into account every surrounding areas. You have to take these cityscape things into account also, and city structure. And this walkable city center and developing it, and how you connect this area to city center, it's really important. And also this Kasarmitori and Esplanade Park, as well as Market Square, must be taken into account. And also this Eteläranta is really important as its position, and Unioninkatu Street is also working as a collector street, which means that they collect cars and other traffic from smaller streets. So there is no intent to change those streets into pedestrian or public transport streets. So we have to take care that these streets also work as they are planned as a collector streets. And when you're dimensioning parking spaces, these City of Helsinki's guidelines for calculating the number of parking lots for cars and also bicycles in workplace areas must be followed. And here comes the last slide. And as you can see, I'm only presenting this. And if you have any further questions, please contact Pekka Nikulainen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And then we have one presentation before a short break. This presentation is on the civil and structural engineering. Kari Kyllästinen from the Technical and Economic Planning of the Urban Environment Division of the City of Helsinki. Welcome.
Thank you. And good afternoon also from my behalf. And my topic is civil and structural engineering of this competition. So I have 8 themes that I'm going to be discussing about. Most of these themes are expressed in more detailed way in the technical report, which is an appendix in the competition. And I'm going to be focusing more on the new construction area inside this competition area. The first one is elevation. This new construction area is located in the seawater flood risk area, and that will be taken into account when planning elevations. The lowest recommended construction elevation is 3 plus 3.4, and below that structures will be waterproofed. And current elevation in the area is from +1 to +2, around that, and the ground level will be raised to +3.4, and that measure will create a continuous structure to protect the entire coastal zone from the changes in the sea level. And here is a picture of the new construction area, and so in that area the ground level will be raised, and but the seashore connections, existing and new seashore connections, can be below that number. They are there +1 to +2. They can be lower than that, +3.4. And also existing connections in Viron, Allas and Olympiaranta area can be below that 3.4. And there is also a great need for restoration and rebuilding of the waterfront and base structures in order to ensure the geotechnical stability of the area. And these structural solutions will be elaborated more when we have a clear vision what the building is going to be and how the area is going to be. And here is also a picture of them. So we have different colored areas, red, blue, green, and there is going to be a different kind of repair methods for the restoration rebuilding of these structures. Geotechnology. Most of the land area consists of mixed fill, which have been made for the use of the harbor during a long period of time. And the rock surface in this area is around -10 to -25. So that means that new buildings will be built on pile foundations. There are also some old structures in the ground that are either foundations of former buildings or the foundations of quay lines. And the city is carrying out some geological tests in the area to have a better knowledge and to refine the soil quality and contamination data, to have a better knowledge about the soil in the area. And these topics that I discussed, city will design and construct. Here is a picture of existing underground spaces. So under Tähtitornin Park, there is a parking hall, and through Tähtitorninmäki also goes a sewer tunnel. Their elevation is around from 0 to +5, not including the driveways and shafts from parking hall. In the northern parts of the area, there is a infrastructure tunnel, and that is located deep in the bedrock in around -40, -50. And in front of the Olympic terminal and port house, there are existing deck structures. Then we have this service vehicle connection that was also talked about in the traffic part, and the object is to create a basement level service connection. And in the planning, we will take into account the special issues of both existing and new underground spaces and also deck structures, for example, rescue safety and all the needs of the structures and technology that those places need. In this picture, you can see the first option that driving to that connection is from the south. And here is the another option to the Tähtitorninmäki parking hall. And this connection, the new construction area in this competition, it will serve that area, but also it will serve the new museum area. So it needs to be reserved the spaces also for the new museum, that the service can work through this connection. Here is also a drawing of this connection. On the right-hand side is the sea, and on the left-hand side is the street. And on the left-hand side, that foundation line, the forces and foundations of new buildings this line can be used also for them. And there are some elevations depending on where this drawing is. The floor level of this connection could be around -5 to -1, and groundwater around 0.2. Current ground level is about +1.9, and the new ground level 3.4 in this area. And also other technical issues you can see from this picture. And in the appendix, in the technical report, which is an appendix in this competition, there is more information about these topics. Then we have infrastructure maintenance networks. In the planning, we will take into account the existing infrastructure and also the projects, maintenance projects, which are planned for the area, the new projects. In this competition, there's a flood pumping station which will be implemented in the southwest corner of Vironallas, and in order to discharge stormwater from Kasarmitori catchment area into the sea. Here is a picture of it. It's that green area there across the Vironallas, and this is also in that technical report. The space needed is 15 times 15 meters, and there is this exact space is showed in the drawing. It doesn't need to be exactly there, but it's around that place, and the important thing is to reserve that space. All the new infrastructure needed for this area will be under Laivasillankatu. Then we have environmental disturbances. In the planning, we will take care of noise, air quality, and other environmental impacts of this area of land and waterway transport. One characteristic for this area in sense of environmental disturbances is the noise from ships, that low frequency noise from ships, which will require special structural solutions in order to prevent that from buildings, and it also limits the functions that can be located in the area. So it is recommended to use also acoustic knowledge in the competition, but those structural solutions can be created in the more detailed planning. And then we have our last slide, economical feasibility. On one hand, we want high quality designing in this area. On the other hand, it is also important to take into account the economical feasibility of the design. So these two things go hand in hand. And in order to achieve that good design, it is recommended to use also engineering knowledge of different sectors in this competition. So that was my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I want to wish all the best for the competitors, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And now it is time for a short break. I believe we're going to take exactly a 6.5 minute break. So we will continue the presentations at 3:30 sharp. And during the break, there will be a poll on where you're attending from, where you're listening to the presentations. Please take a second to answer the poll. Or then if you have questions now that you would like to be answered in the Q&A section in the end of the event, now is maybe a good time to scroll up to the Q&A button and submit your questions and comments. But we will continue at 3:30 sharp. Okay, welcome back to discuss the Makasiiniranta area, the competition and the possibilities of the area. We have three presentations left, and then we will dive into the questions and comments. First, a look at the Port of Helsinki. Pekka Hellström is the Vice President of Technical Services of the Port of Helsinki. Welcome.
Thanks. Good afternoon, all. I would like to bring you a greetings from the Port of Helsinki and give a little background regarding our part and our actions planned for this development. We have heard many good and interesting presentations, and I will be focusing on the port side of this. As a background, which you most likely, it's very easy to figure out from our company's name that we are an organization that operates harbors, also in the city of Helsinki, including this South Harbor. And some words about the vision of Port of Helsinki. We want to be the most functional port in the world, and we approach this through a 6 spearhead themes. Today's agenda is strongly related also to our goal to promoting functionality between us and the surrounding activities for outstanding city and port functionality. And this is a super interesting project also for us. Background of this whole development from our point of view is the rearranging the harbor operations in Helsinki city center by 2030. According to the decision by Helsinki City Council, we will centralize or aim to centralize our center harbors traffics. That means basically that ferry traffic from Katajanokka Harbor to Tallinn will be transferred to West Harbor. As a result of this, it is possible to develop further the Port of Helsinki's port areas surrounding the South Harbor Bay, since Katajanokka and South Harbor are both located surrounding this bay. And development of land use here in Makasiiniranta South Harbor port areas will be enabled by centralizing the Stockholm ferry traffic to Katajanokka Harbor. So there's basically 2 different centralizing actions which allows all this development. However, as we have heard, the international cruise vessels traffic will remain in South Harbor side, and there will also be a possibility, or at least an interest from our side, to develop a little bit further future a smaller possibility operate for high-speed shuttle vessels in the surrounding the South Harbor Bay. And then there are several investments which are needed from Port of Helsinki to enable all this development. One big thing is the tunnel connection from West Harbor, the road network, also the West Harbor area extensions, and building a new terminal, also a renewal of terminal in Katajanokka Harbor. So we are starting our in a starting point of a great big development project of a Port of Helsinki also. And let's see about the clicker. Yes. Oh, the timeline. There are several projects which are bonded together. The goal is 2030. We also have milestone for the Architectural and Design Museum, which can operated parallel with the ferry operation in South Harbour side. But as you can see, there are several big projects that will be starting the simultaneous very soon. We are doing the planning right now, and we need to have progress very fast with those projects to enable this development. And finally, in 2030, the South Harbour will be released, most part of it, from the harbour operation. Here are some changes in South Harbour and Katajanokka Harbour's actions at glance. Now we have ferry connection to Tallinn and Stockholm. In 2030 we have Stockholm connection in Katajanokka. Now we have 2 active passenger terminals. Within 10 years, after 10 years, we only have 1 in Katajanokka, and an option for this fast speed vessels in South Harbour side. Also the berth capacity will reduce some amount, mostly from the South Harbour side. Annual passengers pre-COVID was 4.2 million passengers in South Harbour and Katajanokka Harbour total, and we are expecting to in 2030 to have 2.2 million. So the centralization, the effect is huge. Millions of passengers will be transferred to West Harbour. But this quality and concept competition, Makasiiniranta, we see the South Harbour, Port of Helsinki South Harbour will change as a result of this development. The port will not be present in the area as extensively as we are now. That's for sure. But we, in Port of Helsinki, believe that the port operation and the area's new use will coexist in an excellent way in the next hundreds of years here. So, and the one interesting thing and a big thing is that the South Harbour will keep its original name and function by holding its original use as a harbour. But as you can see from the map, so the areas reserved for the harbour operations will reduce hugely. And here is some quick slide which we are very proud of, and we are very proud of to have the harbours inside and right in the city center, Katajanokka and South Harbour, also in West Harbour, and that all enables us to be the Europe's busiest passenger port, and of course the main port for the Finnish foreign trade. But I wish you all competitors best luck with your planning studies, and we will do the cooperation in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And then an important viewpoint to urban development in Helsinki in general is the Carbon Neutral Helsinki 2035 Action Plan. And now we hear from Kaisa-Reetta Koskinen, who is the project director at Carbon Neutral. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And every time when you are speaking about the climate, I think that you have to start by giving reasons why we are doing this. And I don't know if you can. Okay, and next slide, please. And this time I'm not going to show you pictures about the climate change and the curves about how the carbon dioxide is increasing on the atmosphere, but I'm going to start with this picture, and this is a very good motivation and a very good question on why we are doing this, why we are fighting climate change. So this is a study made a couple of years ago, and it shows very clearly that, you know, the residents of Helsinki, they are very worried about the climate change. You know, almost 90% or a little bit more than 90% of the people, they are at least somewhat worried about climate change. And it's remarkable to notice that actually it's much more, it's about the double than the people who are worried about unemployment, for example. So as a city representative, you know, I think that this gives us a very strong mandate, and not only a mandate, but this is a very strong urge for us to do everything we can to stop the climate change. And the next ones, please. Yeah, the city has set a carbon neutral target. So a city of Helsinki wants to be a carbon neutral by 2035. And here you can see, you know, what we have done so far. And you can see very clearly that we have a very, you know, a hard way in front of us. So basically this carbon neutrality means that, you know, we have to cut at least 80% of the emissions within the next 14 years. So we have to do more, and we have to do faster in order to get and hit the target. And as the city is growing all the time, we are basically paddling up hills. So there are more people, more buildings, more cars, and still we have to do very ambitious emission reductions, you know, despite the fact that the city is growing. So it's not going to be an easy task. So every decision, everything we do here in Helsinki, it needs to be part of the carbon neutrality program. Otherwise, we are not able to hit the target. Next one, please. In this picture, you can very clearly see where the emissions of Helsinki are coming from. You know, more than half, almost 60% of the emissions, they are coming from heating. The second emission source is transport. It is about, you know, roughly 1/4 of the emissions. Then electricity consumption and the waste, they are together around 20%. So these are basically, you know, the big things we have to focus. We have to do a big emission reductions, and that's why we have to focus on the big emission sources. Next one, please. You know, we are doing many things around, you know, these emissions. And as I only have 10 minutes, and we are here focusing in this meeting, we are focusing on the designing and building and that kind of a city planning thing. So I'm also going to focus a little bit more on those things. So if you are interested about, you know, what we are doing in general, you are able to find, you know, our action plan on the internet, and there are, you know, like more than 100 different actions what we are doing. But you know, a couple of years ago, we calculated and evaluated emission reduction potential. So where we are able to get the emission reductions. And around 45% of the potential for emission reduction is somehow related to the buildings and construction. So actually the buildings and constructions are actually in very, very core of this climate fight. Next one, please. Of course, you know, energy efficiency and use of renewable energy should be a business as usual already today. So it's that kind of, you know, a very low hanging fruit. So if you want to reduce emissions of your plan or your buildings or your construction, this is the first thing, you know, no-brainer kind of thing you should focus on. So the buildings have to be energy efficient, and there has to be the use of renewable energy included.
Solar PVs are, very very good and very easy solution, but as I told you earlier, the biggest source of emission is heating. So you should also think about the heating system and the use of renewable energy on the main heating system. So, and that's kind of a very very basic thing, and by doing this properly, you are able to cut quite a big part of the emission of the building already. The next one, please. But of course, we are running out of time. We only have 14 years left before we hit our target dates, and it's not enough only focus on a use phase of the building. So the energy efficiency and use of renewable energy is a must, but it's not enough. When we are looking for the carbon footprint through a life cycle, the embedded carbon of construction materials is a very main thing there. And we have calculated this through quite many times, and in every calculations, the embedded carbon of materials of main frame and amount of materials needed are the main two things which really dominate the carbon footprint of the buildings and the constructions. So this is the other thing you really should focus if you want to reduce the emissions of the building. And the next one, please. It's not only about the buildings. As I said, about the 1/4 of the emissions is coming from the traffic and transportation. In practice, if we want to reduce this, it means less private cars and more bikes, more public transport, and more walking. And it's not only by offering a parking place for the bikes, but actually, according to the studies, the physical environment plays a big role on what means of transportation people are choosing. So by designing, area and properly, it is a big impact on what kind of transport and people are using. So which basically it's included on the designing of the place that what means of transport are easy, fast, funny, cheap to use, and which are probably a little bit slower or maybe a little bit more difficult or more expensive to use. And there is a lot of room for a design to dictate this kind of things. Next one, please. The sustainable living is of course important, but alone, without that kind of backbone of the energy efficient, low carbon footprint buildings, and without the traffic, design, that kind of lifestyle choices, they are not enough. So it is that kind of a thing on the top of everything else, but it's not enough only focus on that kind of lifestyle choices. So keep in mind that where the emissions are coming from, and then really try to do the math, so to say, and focus on the big things first. But of course, sustainable living and to make it possible, it's something we have to do. Next one, please. Whatever we are doing, climate is going to change, and it has changed already, and that's why a climate change adaptation is also very important. So there is basically climate change here in Finland. It means more water, And if you are an engineer, you know that engineers, they hate water, especially when it's in the structure of the building. So it is something you have to keep in mind, and and to remember that there is the climate change will affect city already now and in future. Next one, please. And this is basically, the picture I started with. And I told you that, we have a rough, trip ahead of us, that we have to do more, and we have to do difficult choices and difficult things. And it is the one interpretation you can do with this picture. But there is also, another kind of interpretation in this picture embedded. So basically, as you can see, we have come down already 30%. So we have already cut 1/3 of the emissions, since 1990. And if you think about the quality of life, it's not worse. It's actually better. So with this picture, and with this progress, we have proved already. So we have a very good track record that it is possible to reduce emissions and have, better life and have a very good life. So they are not opposite, they are not against, each other, but we are able to do both at the same time. So we have proved it already. Next one, please. And so I really hope that you will join us and help us to do a climate neutral city where the life is very good. Thank you on my behalf.
Thank you very much. We have a ton of good questions and comments coming in. And so just a little heads up, I think we will be going a little over 4 p.m. With the program today. We have one final presentation, I think one that many of you in the audience have been waiting for. It's on the competition specifications. Valtteri Vuorio from the Competition Secretary. Welcome.
Right, thanks, Ville. I'll just wait for the presentation to come up. Right. So, City of Helsinki is organizing a competition to find a partner for the development and implementation of Makasiiniranta at South Harbour. The competition is a two-phase quality and concept competition, and it's intended for operators in the construction and real estate industry or consortia formed by these. The competition begins with the approval of the participants. Teams will apply to participate with an application. Communication and competition documents are facilitated through competition website at makasiiniranta.hel.fi. The material and information regarding the competition are available on the competition website and in the document management system, including more detailed information on the area, buildings to be preserved, instructions for 3D models, etc., etc. The parties accepted for the competition will be given access to the document management system. The Q&A procedure is anonymous. The questions and the answers given to them will be published on the competition website within 5 working days of receiving the question. Questions may be submitted until September 30th. The organizer will have the right to publish images of the entries in its own publications, websites, and exhibitions. The competition entries will be published on the competition website, and the public will have the opportunity to comment on the competition entries on the City of Helsinki's Voice Your Opinion website. The location of the competition is in the Makasiiniranta area of South Harbour Bay in Helsinki of Finland. The area extending from the old market hall to Olympia Terminal is part of the national landscape of maritime Helsinki and in part a built cultural environment of national significance. As stated earlier in some of the presentations, it is possible to propose culture, service, business, and other facility constructions for the area. The objective of the competition is to develop the area as part of the expanding pedestrian city center and the seaside trail around the shores of Helsinki. A key goal of the competition is to produce an overall land use plan that takes into account the city's objectives in terms of land use and urban landscape, and the value of the area in terms of cultural history. The winning solution serves as a basis for the future development, detailed planning, and implementation of the area. The competition area covers a wide range to make it possible to plan alternative solutions for new construction and its detailed location. The focus area for new construction is the Makasiiniranta area, located between the line of Eteläinen Makasiinikatu Street and Port House, i.e. Satamatalo. As stated also earlier, most of the current port operations will be moving away from the area. A reservation for high-speed vessel and international cruise ship traffic will be maintained in the area, and therefore there will be harbor security area, but more details about this in the competition documents. The competition includes the area plan for the Architecture and Design Museum, the aim of which is to ensure that the museum becomes a natural part of the area. A new building for the museum is part of the broader development of Makasiiniranta. So there are plans for a separate architecture competition concerning the realization of the museum. The museum is therefore not included in this competition, but space has to be reserved for it when planning the area. The historically valuable buildings to be preserved in the area, the old market hall, Olympia terminal, and port house, can be included in the area handed over to the winner if they are part of the concept of the winning entry. The City of Helsinki has received some questions regarding why the competition is not targeted at designers or designers only. There are clear reasons behind this. In any case, architects do have a major role in the competition due to the high quality which is sought after. In addition, the future implementer, i.e. the winning organization, is basically required to commit to the designer. The winner of the competition will be responsible for the functional, technical, and economic concept and solution of the plots to be formed and the new buildings to be built, as well as the historical buildings located on them. The winner of the competition will act as an implementer of the area and commit itself to the development. So, the competition began on May 12th. We're now on the competition seminar phase, and there are two deadlines for questions, June 14th and September 30th. The first important deadline is June 21st. By then, should competitors have registered for the competition. The submission of Phase 1 competition entries is on December 1st, and the selection for Phase 2 is early next year. The competition will begin with the approval of the participants. Teams will apply to participate with a free-form application, which must include a statement of fulfillment of the minimum eligibility requirements set for the competitor. More information about this in the competition program. The application form is available at the website, along with all the other necessary documents at this point. As stated, the application is free form mostly, but there are certain economic and financial conditions and registrations that are required along with references. In the first actual phase of the competition, the competitors will submit a draft plan for the area as a competition entry. The competition entries will be submitted under pseudonyms by December 10th, 2021. The competition entries will be put on public display as stated. The evaluation panel, i.e. the jury, will select a maximum of 4 best competitors for the second phase. In the second phase of the competition, the competitors will prepare an elaborated competition entry or a project plan based on negotiations with the competition organizer the city of Helsinki. And after selecting the winner, it is presented to the city board of Helsinki that the winner will be granted a development reservation for further planning of the project. The plan is to negotiate the agreements on the transfer of the plots and the implementation of the area during the development reservation. The competition organization consists of an evaluation panel jury that will carry out the evaluation and selection of the winner. The Makasiiniranta competition has a great pleasure of having impartial experts with exceptional expertise within the fields of architecture, landscape architecture, urban planning, and real estate development in the jury. Kees Christiaanse from the Netherlands is a world-renowned architect and Professor EM as well as a founding partner of the famous Kees Christiaanse Architects and Planners. Leila Strömberg is the city architect and the head of town planning at City of Jyväskylä, a city known for having the most significant building complexes designed by Alvar Aalto in the whole world. Aino Aspila represents the Finnish Association of Landscape Architects and is the owner of Aino Landscaping Company. Markku Hietala is a senior expert and advisor within real estate development as well as a partner in Real Idea Company. The rest of the jury consists of the members of the City of Helsinki, future mayor and deputy mayor, head of the Urban Environment Division, as well as different heads and managers of certain functions. All in all, the jury consists of 7 professional members, i.e. architects in this case. The applications must be submitted by 21st June. As stated earlier, the application is free form but must meet certain requirements. The application must be one PDF file submitted to info@makasiiniranta.fi, or if the document is very large, one can apply the WeTransfer service to the same email address. In the first phase of the competition, the competitors will draw up a draft plan in accordance with the competition program and the planning principles of the area. The scope of the material to be prepared in the second phase of the competition corresponds with the requirements of the first phase. In the second phase, the competitors will also submit their offers for the unit prices of the building rights in accordance with their entry, as well as the total price calculated on the basis of the building rights. If the buildings to be reserved in the area are part of the concept of the competition entry, the competitor must also submit an offer of the buildings. All necessary details on competition assignment, preparation of the competition entries, and evaluation of the competition entries can be found from the competition program. The competition program, as well as the appendices, can be found from the competition website. In the first phase of the competition, the evaluation will focus on the overall solution and idea of plan and its integration with the values of the surroundings and the landscape. Throughout the competition, the evaluation will pay attention to the realization of the planning principles. The evaluation criteria set out in the competition program concerns overall solution in terms of cityscape and landscape, overall functional solution, the old market hall and harbor buildings, architecture and design museum, feasibility and techno-economic quality, and climate-smart construction. More detailed breakdown of the criteria can be found in the competition program. The functionality of the overall solution and its potential for development will be considered more important than any of the individual evaluation criteria. The starting point for the plans and detailed planning of the competition area will be the winning entry, and the detailed plan will be drawn up by the City of Helsinki in the form of so-called partnership planning, in cooperation with the winning party who receives the development reservation. The planning area will be reserved for the winner of the competition for approximately 2 years for the development of the project and further investigation of the conditions of implementation. During the development reservation granted to the winner or the competition, an implementation agreement for the implementation of the area and a preliminary agreement for the lease of the plots with call options will be negotiated. More information about the main principles of the implementation agreement, principles of pre-construction plot conveyance, and plot pricing can be found from the competition program. And furthermore, a draft of implementation agreement and special terms for reservations can now be found from the competition website's competition documents tab. It is hoped that the communication concerning the competition, especially by the competitors, happens to info@makasiniranta.fi. One can also contact the competition secretary or the competition organizer directly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now it is time for our Q&A session. I was promised that we would get all the speakers on the screen. We have so many questions and comments that it was decided that all of the questions will be answered on the website after this seminar, but we will go through some of them here now for the end of this talk. First, I have two questions for Salla Hoppu. Salla, I will read both questions and then you can briefly answer them together. The questions are, what is the maximum GFA area for development of new functions mentioned, such as services, shops, hotels, etc.? And why is housing not allowed in the area?
Okay, thank you for the questions. The maximum gross floor area, that's not defined because it depends on the functions what you will have for the area. There are studies in the space allocation and guideline plan about the gross floor areas for the area. But we have like other limits for the gross floor area, like in terms of the cityscape. And the other question about the function, this Makasiiniranta, it will be an extension of the Helsinki downtown area. And we want to strengthen this downtown area and city center, and it's in the city strategy that we need more services and like these downtown-like services, and the housing in this location, it would make this shoreline too private. Thank you.
Thank you. It would be a great view for private housing, though, but I understand the arguments there behind that. Then we have a couple of questions about the port functions for Pekka. I will again read both questions, and then Pekka, you can briefly answer them maybe together. Questions are: there's always need for cruise ship service at pier level. How has this been considered from the pedestrians' point of view? And then the other question, can the harbor security area inaccessible from the public be challenged, the shape and size of it, and to which extent?
Okay, thank you for the question. For the first question, so that's true that in the quay areas we need some space for the maintenance of the vessels, and due to security and safety reasons, the areas needs to be fenced, and the admittance it will need a pre-admittance, and that's why it's not possible, unfortunately, and then you will find it from the material. The berths what are now in the material that's been agreed as a planning starter for this competition. So it means basically that the red area into the maps means that it will be fenced, and there will be, of course, some maintenance traffic by cars and also access for the passengers to go in through a control gates inside the area. I hope this answers a little bit.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to check. I guess Kaarina had to leave us already, so maybe these couple questions concerning the museum go to Valtteri then. The questions are, will a separate tender be issued for the design of the new architecture and design museum? And then also on that, will entry to the design museum competition also be open to parties who enter this competition? And a third question, are these two competitions interlinked in any way?
So to answer the second question, yes, one can join both. And the third question, these aren't interlinked as the competitions in any way. The first questions, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I actually think we covered that already, so it was just
Okay.
making sure that there will be a separate competition on the museum itself.
Yeah.
I believe maybe this question would go to Salla Hoppu, or if it's to someone else, then just raise your hand. The question is it allowed to offer additional deck-like platforms on the sea, floating or anchored to the sea bottom?
Maybe this question should go, for instance, to Kari Kyllästinen or to the port, I guess.
Yes.
From the economical standpoint, there is going to be to the city. There is going to be quite major renovations and rebuildings in the waterfront area. So, in that sense, in economical standpoint, it's maybe good to keep the waterfront in that way that it is now. And also, there is lots of waterway traffic. So maybe Port can discuss about that more, but there is lots of waterway traffic, and in that sense, the decks in the sea are not good design solution. So I would say that no decks in the sea area in this competition in the new construction area.
Go ahead, Pekka.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I give one short comment also. So at least there are areas where the large vessel are maneuvering into the harbor area. So it's basically technically impossible to set those up where they in front of the piers or front of the queue line, and that's need to be taken care of. And we've been this issue was discussed in the principles of this in this planning phase, and I think we all agree that it's not the most preferable solution, or actually even possible.
Okay, so if you want to go there, you need to come up with a mind-blowing idea for that, I guess, how I'm reading the room here. Two final questions will go to Valtteri, and then here there's a long list of questions, good questions here, and the people from the city of Helsinki and all the other organizations involved promised to put out a Q&A to the website then after, where everything is answered. But these two questions for Valtteri. On the competition, will you be limiting the number of entries for stage 1 after the pre-qualifications of the competition? And the second question, when is it known whether the registration has been approved?
You will be known by July, during early July, if you're selected for the competition. There is no limitation of how many competitors there can be. If you meet the requirements, you can join the competition. That's about it.
Okay, thank you very much for all the presentations and to all the experts. And I was told I could say some final words here. In the end, I will keep it tight or short because we are already 13 minutes over our time. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been super fascinating, exciting even, I think, to hear about the area and start to think about the possibilities. We heard that the city of Helsinki is looking for an ambitious but at the same time realistic plans where you remember the values of the area, respect the history, respect the sea. And then I was thinking there was talk of the pedestrians, and my own jogging route goes through that area. So I very much am also looking forward to, as a citizen, to see plans that take that into an account and provide me with a wonderful jogging route also in the future. So keep in mind the citizens as well when thinking about this prestigious area. So yeah, the Q&A and all the other materials regarding this competition will be at makasiiniranta.hel.fi. And yeah, good luck to everyone. May the best plan win, and I guess we'll hear September next year who came up with the most ambitious yet realistic plan for the area. Now, thank you for your time.